the elephant in the room, and it has to be called like the elephant in the room, because like we've said before, you've just mentioned about traction. Lots and lots of people been contacting us, and I'm sure it's happening at your end as well, buddy, in regarding the subject matter of what we're talking about, which is a bit of a niche fringe subject which isn't really welcome on YouTube and many other platforms. It's not a superior place to advertise on, so I kind of get that. But then you know what? Some people have looked into channels what we've had and said, yeah, blacklisted, 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 shadow banned, whatever. Yeah, they don't like this subject. But do you know what? There's many people saying the same thing. The first is this information is hard to come by, you know, and it's so plentiful. Well, yeah, that's because we're specialised in this subject.
Yeah.
Secondly, how many people are contacting us saying, "Do you know what? I've had that experience." And like I said, if you just look at the small amount of people, I mean, it is a small amount of people, really, compared to the world that are seeing our material. And
Mhm.
statistically speaking, it's shocking how many people I might be saying, might have NHI experiences, things that haven't gone so well. But
Mhm.
we're not the only ones now, because years ago was a bit different. But now there's a sequence of people behind us which are coming on board and saying the same thing. And one of those was on November the 1st of this year. US Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene
Yeah.
states on national TV, which is interesting, that UFOs are not from outer space and that she believes they are, quote, fallen angels. Now, that's a big reference. Fallen angels could mean many different things. So that takes us into a second debate. That second debate is angels, demons, other.
Okay. Yeah.
And I keep trying to tell people instead of going like this, just go like that. Yeah, well,
Awesome.
not we can't say put that finger up, kind of, but
Yeah.
you know what I mean. It's just one.
Cancelled. Cancelled. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Which I thought, and she went on to say that parts of the US government are concealing the true nature of the UFO phenomenon, deliberately hiding it from the Congress and the public. Well, that kind of sort of spins right, really, if you talk about the Congress, because not a lot's got actually happened at Congress. Several members of Congress are now making the same claims, and we are slowly seeing a shift in regard the narrative,
Mhm.
a higher push. They believe we are dealing with something far older and more troubling.
His superiors told him that they thought these things were demons and that he was doing the devil's work by looking into it. And on camera in the film, he says, I can't believe these words were coming out of their mouths. He's like, I'm briefing them on an advanced aerospace vehicle that's absolutely there. It's been spotted by trained observers like our Navy fighter pilots in their $80 million airplanes that we trust them with, right? It's been spotted on data collection systems like satellite and radar. And this guy's telling me it's a demon. It's insane.
And I believe those could be fallen angels.
They're trying to say without saying. This is what a lot of people do. And they don't want to just come out and go, oh, I believe it's this, 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 and this. But
Mhm.
they're trying to very cleverly, without upsetting the apple cart too much, steer their way through this path. And they are, which is good because I think to myself, well, at least they're trying. Where me and you, we kind of go straight in for the kill. But, but I can understand they're being tactful about this. We already know the opinions of Jacques Vallée, for an example, and that he believes that UFOs and entities behave more like interdimensional intelligences also than rather than physical spacecraft. Yeah, we get that, because this has been on the cards for a long time. Dr. Hugh has also been very prominent over the last few months as well. I mean, I know he was from the past, but he's back again, stating that the UFO phenomenon, UFOs, NHI, can temporarily manifest in our reality to be physical in nature and demanifest back into theirs. So he's like, pop in, I'm physical, pop out, I'm not. But what is interesting about that is that other researchers have gone one step further, claiming that they can even skirt our reality. A sense of seeing them but not physical in our reality.
Mhm.
Like, many UFOs can seemingly shift their physicality, much like paranormal phenomena does. I mean, I remember looking back at, was it March 97, the Phoenix lights?
Yeah.
Now, they came out with this BS that it was one giant craft. It wasn't, because I've got the enhanced photographs showing that these were individual objects, these balls of light, which descended. But there was other incidents reported, which you don't get to see much of. It was about on the same, pretty much the same day, two giant UFOs were seen, which were triangular, and they were so big that they said the people that saw it could land a 747, a Boeing massive big plane on top of this thing if they wanted to. Now, it was extremely low, and he said literally it covered from horizon to horizon as far as they could see. That's how huge it was, and that's how low it was. But what was interesting is that nobody picked anything up on radar. And we're not talking just military, we're talking the civilian airports and even small biplane airports, you know, when they have small aircraft. Now, that's interesting because they all reported this shimmering effect when looking at it. So it was as if it was or wasn't in our reality, skirting, demonstration of power, who knows? But it's interesting because apparitions walking through walls and also able to physically prod you, touch you, scratch you, thump you, pull your hair, is a physical items in their environment even being moved around, but yet they just walk through a door. So you got this switching aspect, the same physics it's involved with the UFO stuff. Now, UFOs often demonstrate maneuvers at high speeds. This is what he goes on to say. Many falling between 5,000 and 18,000. That is the average. Between 5,000 and 18,000 miles per hour is an average speed, high speed of what they've been seen to do. Without any sonic booms, no heat tracers, no restrictions in passing through water, because of inertia, you'd think you'd hit it. I mean, hitting the water at such a high speed is like hitting a brick wall. But no, even entering water and coming out without splashes. It's as if the water's not there. And even passing through solid items, entering into the ground, mountains, volcanoes, same hypothesis. However, I do believe that these high speeds, as I said before, if you look at the Sam Chortek and Jimmy Chappie footage, which was taken on a 4K drone, something whizzed by so fast they didn't even see it. But it was estimated traveling at 12,500 miles an hour. But what is interesting about that one is that it's banks. It comes down from the mountains and it banks like this. Now, any banking maneuver is an aerodynamic maneuver, is normally for aircraft which are having to deal with the physicality of our reality. In other words, like real aircraft. It's banks. So I'm thinking to myself, looking at this, I think it's ours. Because there's plenty of stuff demonstrating at high speed, even dish-shaped crafts, which are not on the horizontal side, they're on the vertical. And they go like this. And they go any directions at high speed. So we know that they're not limited in maneuverability because it's like steps out of the physics that we understand. So something banking at 12,500 miles an hour, I'm thinking, that's probably one of our toys over Utah as well, interesting enough. So they got this banking procedure. It gives it kind of clues away that, yeah, we probably got some interesting toys, should we say, out there. But Dr. Ross goes on to describing visiting scientists and witnessing experiments taking place in the Soviet Union in the 1980s. He hasn't talked heavily about this, but he refers to it as what they were referring to it, occult physics. Love the naming, in which once the study started, because these are all pretty much academics and scientists, but once the study started, each and every one of them started witnessing UFOs and other strange materializations. They had to literally get involved with the study to experience the stuff. It's like, again, if it draws your attention, the door's open for you, but it won't really shut. That's the problem. It doesn't really shut. And this is why people out there say, well, come on, Steve, I've never seen anything. Well, it's about your, it's about what your intent is. It's about what your belief is. You know, if you're into it, if you've got some interest in that subject, the door is open for you, my friend, but it might not ever close. And this seems to be the same thing. Scientists, never been involved with stuff like this before, suddenly having all these experiences because of the study program. And I thought to myself, yeah, time and time again, it's exactly the same thing. And this is why we've got an influx of people reported UFO sightings, because if you just look over the last 2 or 3 years, how much media stuff has been out in the US in regarding the subject of UFOs? It's everywhere. The UAP hearings, you've got whistleblowers here, whistleblowers there, you've got researchers at Joe Rogan, all these different people grabbing these guys, and it's out there. And then the news teams picks up on it and they publicise it. So it's everywhere. It's consuming. But because of its consumption being high, it's increased the amounts of sightings. So people are having more people maybe never had sightings, but because they've been sat for a week in front of the television watching all the UFO stuff, the door starts to open a bit for them. And then it's like, oh, I can't believe it. I've just seen this UFO yesterday in the sky with my husband. I've never seen a UFO before. Oh, right, Mrs. Brown. Well, tell me, have you been watching anything recently? Oh, yeah, we watched all week about the UAP hearings or whatever. You know what I mean? So it's part of this, So, like I say, look, you and me, we skirt these two realities in a sense, ours and theirs. We do. We've got one foot in their camp, you and me. Right?
Yeah,
Well,
I
that's
know.
how we like it. We're controlling it. We might only have one foot in it, but the rest of our body's over here in our reality. But we've got one foot there. And this is how we have to control it that way because it can consume you by stepping onto the other side. Some people don't know that. It's like, I'm on this side or jump onto that side or back. But there is that delicate balancing situation for both of us about how much. Sometimes it gets a little heavy, you have to take a step back. Sometimes it's not quite enough, you have to take a step forward. And this is the process of how we work, you and me. But it's very misunderstood about what it takes to do that. And it does, because you naturally want to dive in, don't you? But then you think to yourself, no, I've got to do this slowly in little bits and don't catch the eye too much. And that's the situation that seems to be arising. Now, this Congressman, Eric Burlington, he's another guy who's come forward stating that he had been informed by David Grush that NHI represent extra-dimensional or interdimensional entities, but not extraterrestrial in origin. So again, we're moving away, not extraterrestrial, extra-dimensional, interdimensional, but not extraterrestrial. So the NHI in ancient times have been described as the messengers of God. But if you start to look at the messengers of God, they vary, but most of them are said to be like angels and this, that, and the other, a few different references. But things change in time. This is what the problem is, because we're stuck in the old devil and angel hypothesis, the visualization of these. We've moved on. It's 21st century now. And the phenomenon is always evolving. So why should we be seeing the devil and an angel? Most of the time it's going to be represented. I'm not saying it's impossible, but what I'm saying is, because sometimes it does throw up the old cards now and again.
It'd be too obvious, right?
Yeah,
Too
it's
obvious.
too obvious. So they've got all these other archetypes they can pick from now. It's like a deck of cards. And the old deck of cards is there, which used to be the ancient times. Well, now and again I might reach for one, but most of them are new, pretty new to the 21st century in modern times. And this is what people are experiencing. Various different things. So many different things, actually. There's too many to list, archetypes, to be honest with you. Got an array of them. And that's without even questioning what chimeras were in ancient days. So it was interesting what he says about these messages of God. Now, UFOs easily violate the laws of physics, as we know, just as the paranormal does regard the parameters of equipment. Because we've done through experiments, the equipment's been manipulated, such as cameras that can take a photograph on film, which the film's not even loaded in the camera, but hey presto, the camera film's just on the side, and I'll place the image on there. You'll go and get the film developed, and they'll be on there. It's impossible, beyond the physics and understanding of the equipment. Then, of course, you've got audio recordings that are recording at such frequencies, too low or too high, where the recorder is only designed to record from 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz, this is human vocals, and yet it's coming in at 10 hertz, or it's coming in at 36 or 38,000 hertz.
It's like two voices, that.
Yeah, that is two voices.
That's two voices.
Goodbye and good night.
Goodbye and good night, definitely.
Can I ask them a question? I'm trying to get out the traffic. Hang on. That is beautiful because that's two.
Yeah.
That is amazing. That's the best one. That's
I definitely could hear the words good night and goodbye. I mean, I'm just as perplexed as I was. So for words, and that doesn't happen very often. But as you can well imagine, it's a bit perplexing, and I have no explanation for it at this time. You think it's beyond the equipment's capabilities of doing so. So how does it get on there? Transplacement puts it on, but it's not utilising the equipment. It's not. It's not utilising the equipment. It's just being utilised for us so we can get that information back. But the method of putting it on there is not used in that manner, beyond physics. Video cameras, exactly the same. Radios, you know, I mean, you pull out the plugs, you pull out the old tubes of radios, you put them in a Faraday cage, they still keep working. How are they working without power? How are they working without the tubes in the radio? Vital parts that cause equipment to work have been taken away, and yet the voices bellow out of its speaker. It's beyond the parameters and understanding of the equipment's capabilities. And this is what we keep telling people. And it's the same for measuring equipment. How many people are out there? EVP, temperature, Gauss meters, you name it. It doesn't matter. All of which can be completely manipulated by the phenomena, including now computer systems, artificial intelligence, electronics, telephones, mobile devices, cell phones, house phones. It doesn't matter. There are plenty of books out there called Telephone Calls from the Dead. How?
Yes.
You know, it's the same thing. They are demonstrating over and over again the breaching of our physical reality, the breaching of our physical world, the breaching of the equipment's capabilities. And this is when you start to scratch your head and you go, how far does this go? Well, I can tell you how far it goes. It goes into the airport phenomena. And that's when we've talked about this extensively, about the manipulation there. And even light, generating 9.6 megawatts of light. And yet you can put your hand out and not a bit of light will cast onto your hand. How does light waves not work like that? Because in physics, if you've got a light above your house generating 9.3 megawatts, you're going to be in like the sunlight.
Right.
It doesn't even cast onto your hand. How can that be? It's breaching even the physics of light and gravity. So we might as well just get all that and put it aside and say, look, let's not try and fit that into this square tub. Because it's round and it will never fit. It doesn't matter how much research. It's interesting getting that data, but then you get to a point and you go, okay, it's beyond understanding. It's beyond how they're doing it. And they must be manipulated. Our reality has these constraints. This is how gravity works. This is how light works. This is how this works. This is physicality works. But to them, it doesn't. So they pop into our reality and they've got the rule book to breach everything. They breach everything, the mechanisms of our reality in multiple ways, and keep demonstrating to us, hey, surprise, surprise, you never thought this, but I can do that. People go, how the hell does it do it? It's what you call one of those things. There are millions of these one of those things. We could have a whole volume like Britannica, couldn't we, on one of those things. You know, it just keeps ploughing them out. But it is interesting about the manipulation. Another person coming forward, because like I said, they're all coming out the woodwork, mate. They're seeping out left, right, and centre now. Whistleblower Dylan Borland states recently, what we are dealing with is something very, very old. Now, this is on Weaponized. Now, though I don't really like the show, I think the world of George Knapp, you know, but it's like taking your granddad for a walk through a nice park and he doesn't really know the route. That's the best way I can describe it.
Well
I think
done, well done.
he's a lovely guy, and I've met him a few times. He's interviewed me about our work. But I think the driving wheel is maybe not in his hands. But at the same time, it's interesting that you got these whistleblowers coming to weaponized to get the information out. So this is what he says. We're dealing with something very, very old and has biblical connections. We have been influenced by something else. There is no scientific evidence for that extraterrestrials exist, just as the Pentagon program Arrow concluded. There's no evidence. You've got all this data everywhere, but you show me the evidence that says these are extraterrestrial. They looked and they looked and they looked. They couldn't find it. So the narrative is built on something which is not concluded. It's a theory, it's a hypothesis, but then you could say, well, then, they're coming out of, anywhere, because you can say
Right.
anything you want without conclusion, without evidence. There's no evidence. There's no evidence to say that these extraterrestrials are just as a hypothesis, a rumor, a theory, and people latch onto these. It's a stronger theory as the evolutionary theory. Why did he call it the evolutionary theory? Because it was a theory. He wasn't even convinced himself, but it was a theory at the time. So they latched onto it. Yep, this is the truth. Until something better comes along, as a guy once told me. He was a curator in a museum, because I saw all the monkeys lined up, and I said, when he goes from ape to man, should we say?
Mhm.
Said, are you still running with that? And he said, he looked around, he said very quietly to me, until we've got something better. And I thought,
Yeah.
yeah, you have it. Well, this is what science does, doesn't it? That's got to be the truth until it isn't, you know. It's interesting what he says then, because he goes on to say that we have been influenced, and even at the Pentagon level, these things are probably, here's the four things: gods, demons, angels, or jinn. And
Well,
I'd say, oh, well, all fall in the all ingredients of the same pot stew. It's the same stew, and these are all the ingredients that, yeah, it's been added to it, you know. But it's interesting that the people are saying this stuff. Now, it goes even further. US Vice President J.D. Vance, yeah,
Mhm.
recently stated on Air Force One podcast, I believe there are spiritual forces working on the world that a lot of us don't see, nor understand, and sometimes don't appreciate. Is it aliens or something that actively wants to bring us harm? I can see this little effort moving to this other side, this other area, and it starts to get my brain going, thinking, okay, I've never seen so many people pushing towards a certain direction. Directions where, we've set up camp for some years, you and myself, and others. So my personal view on this matter, after serious studying, which I've been in, 41 years now, 42 in May. Yeah. Um, of next year. So yeah, 41 years is that everything is considered or as some type of concluded phenomena. I would say, and I would keep saying this to people, is the power of God. Why should it not be? Why
Mhm.
should not be? Because clearly, if you read ancient scriptures and writings, or even biblical scriptures as well, documentation, it shows God had bad days, you know, and he demonstrated the smiting power of God, or you are going to unfortunately experience something because I'm angry with you, or I don't like you, or I'm annoyed, or whatever, which is a very humanistic trait, to be honest with you. I mean, you can off God, and that means that he's got emotions and he understands, and you can annoy him and he can lash out. If we have got emotions, because he said God gave us emotions, humans emotions,
Mhm.
and to think for ourselves and do as we want, it seems God has also got emotions,
Mhm.
because he can be annoyed and he can smite you. apparently, according to the scriptures, people have come on the wrong side of God and paid royally for it. Never want the wrath of God to be released on the individual. And I thought to myself, well, that's really unusual because when I look at all, and I have to consider why is it not all God? What makes it not godly? Because you have godly powers, don't they? You know, if you look through the descriptions and you look through the Bible, you go, well, this has got the same aspects of what Jesus could do. You
Mhm.
know, there's been accounts of strange beings that walked across water. Jesus did that.
Yep.
There's accounts of NHI changing the aspect of something into something else. Hang on a sec, didn't Jesus?
Yeah.
You know, he made wine and bread from things. And I think, okay, please give me some separation here. If you keep going at it, you can't divide them.
It's difficult, and the conversation that we're having now needs to be had in the field because there's a book that was recently written by a professor, Esther Amori, called God's Monsters. And within the religious framework, it's very binary. Angels are demons, and then cryptids. Well, in her book, God's Monsters, she unpacks biblical antiquity and basically says that all of these entities are submitted underneath one source,
One
and
source.
they are his tools, they are his entities, and they all, at the end of the day, answer to him. And this gets back into what's called the left hand of God,
That's
where
right.
he
Yeah.
says, I've created evil. Ha! I've created good, and I have created evil. And so within this religious framework, it has to be entertained, at least entertained,
Yeah.
that
It
this is
it does.
coming. Your tools
Yeah.
of the divine, and that would also explain the unexplainable.
Yeah. It really would. I mean, you have to deliver that's very likely. And as I have put it so nicely so many times, is that if you want to consider God as an example, it's the same hand that feeds that also bites. It's as
Mhm.
simple as that, you know? And only people will say it's a great experience until it isn't a
It
great
changes.
experience. You know, or vice versa. You know, some people can have some terrible experience and then have one out of the blue, which is, oh well, do you know what? It wasn't too bad actually. Well, that's just to bring you back on track and reel you down a little bit. You know, the deception here. You know,
Mhm.
and it is simple deception. It's being employed. But I can say that when we first come out with this information, is ridicule,
Mhm.
shunned even by fellow researchers. Some academics, raised eyebrows, whispers around the corner. And I thought, oh, well, do you know what? I thought I've either lost it or others are going to join the bandwagon. And now we're seeing others join the bandwagon. And I'm thinking to myself, what are they thinking now? Are these, what did the likes of people like that think back years ago when you were listening to you or listening to me or listening to Barry or others? Where do they stand now? I
Mhm.
think they're having one of those epiphany moments going, oh my God, you know, these people in high places and high powers and academic circles are saying the same thing. Or, you know what, it's no different. We're not special. It's just that we got to the finish line before them. That's all it is,
Mhm.
in delivering to the general public. I wasn't under things that, oh, well, I can't say. I mean, there are some things, obviously, but that's to come. I would never be involved in something where I had to find, and I have signed NDAs.
Mhm.
Jackie pulled me like the other night. Said, Steve, don't mention how many NDAs you've got. Why? I said, because people don't need to know. So I said, okay, I've got NDAs. But I
Yep.
would never join something or be part of something or a think tank or whatever if I thought the information that's being shared to me would never get out. I'd say, bye, waste of my time. If you're
Mhm.
never going to release this. But I am told it's on its way. We're formulating it for the general public. It's got to be digested. It's got to be passed. It's got to be peer reviewed. All this sort of stuff.
Mhm.
So I wait, and little bits do come forward, you know. over time. So this is why I get to, it's just all I'm doing is hearing a little bit in advance. That's all. And trying not to have loose lips because they sink ships, you know. But that's what it was like, you know. But I do see the tide turning pretty fast, to be honest with you. More and more researchers, whistleblowers, and are coming forward claiming the very same thing. Now, we briefly talked about Matthew Brown,
Right.
who demonstrated his practice for using ritualistic practice when quoting angel language, which was created by John Dee and who was the other guy? Who was the other guy?
Edward,
Yeah,
Edward Kelly.
that's it, Kelly. Now, he states, you are not free. You
Yeah.
are not free. And this reality has far more to it than you'll have ever been allowed to believe. And God is real. If they are looking at this concept as we are, that it's the same hand that feeds, it's the same hand that bites, that God, the source, has all these tools.
Mhm.
If he knows that, then his statement at the end there saying God is real is correct. Because
Mhm.
if we want people to say, where's the proof of God? This is the problem. People's misdirected as what that might mean. The proof of God is in the sky. It's
Exactly
haunting
right.
your back bedroom.
It's Maimonides. God's in nature. You could see the proof of intelligent life.
Yeah,
But yes, absolutely, I agree.
it is. He also stated that we live in a matrix. Well, yes, it's a construct of some sort. Yes, we've talked about that. But it is interesting how people might perceive God, you know, because it's how you want to believe, really.
Mhm.
And if he has all these tools and he's using them, then there's your evidence. You know, what is the driving force behind phenomena? Likely, possibly God. You know, so this is why I keep saying to people, I said, well, don't force yourself into thinking there's a black box, a white box, and a grey box.
Mhm.
Just say, look, there's no blooming boxes, and everything's rolled into one great big pot, you know,
Mhm.
of tools, like you just said, manipulating and utilizing when it needs to, you know, because we've
Mhm.
seen a phenomena switch from something that is in this box. Oh, it's religious, it's biblical. And then it switches and it's hang on, it's demonic. Oh no, it's an alien. Uh,
Right.
you know, well, you know, it's but what if it's like this? And this is what we have, this situation of changeability, you know, which has an interesting name, it's called duality. He also
Duality.
remarks on him having information about the Immaculate Constellation. Now, Immaculate Constellation is a classified AI system that ingests multispectral ISR data from global surveillance platforms like satellites, radar, signet, drones, infrared technology, and autonomously filters flagged anomalies into these compartment based of pre-programmed clearance logic. So basically what it's doing is it decides who gets to see what in real time. There
Mhm.
is no flag or filtered data. There's no audit trail. There's no indication of downstream users of anything was removed. So what it's basically doing is that it's compartmentalizing. In other
Mhm.
words, we've created this for us to use, and its information it concludes and gathered might not be shared to you, but will be shared to this guy over there because he has the rights to know it and you
Mhm.
don't. Compartmentalization, you know. So he refers to the system as a two-faced God. Interestingly enough, it's a two-faced God. It seems everything, but it sees everything, but only shows you what your credentials allow. Simple. Everything else disappears, not deleted, just rerouted to somebody else who does have the right to see it. The best form of or the height of compartmentalization. Now, I think it was about maybe a month or so ago now, about a month ago, we talked about Jason Sands, another whistleblower, didn't
Mhm.
we? And Jason was great. He was definitely under duress though when he was talking. Sweat was coming off him and he was
Sure
looking
do.
over his shoulder. And I thought, poor guy, if you get to that point, don't open your mouth.
Yeah.
Don't feel you have to be obligated to spread the word to some guy on a podcaster
Mhm.
and he's got sweat coming off him. And I'm thinking to myself, why is he doing that? It's so easily. because your nature wants to tell people, but at the same time, you're under duress for doing it. I'd say, look, don't do it until you feel happy too. Don't put yourself through that. But he was. And he said, oh, you wouldn't believe what I'm having to hold back on because it's too fantastical. It's not even close to anything that's really being talked about. He hasn't been onto our channel yet, though, buddy, I don't think.
That's true. That's true.
He also states they are completely, here we go again, they are completely horrible and good as well. The same hand that feeds is the same hand that bites. It's all combined, he says. He also refers to NHI in disguise, interestingly enough, that have infiltrated at the top level. Disguise. Now, we've got this aspect of that. Oh yeah, the shape shifting and this that. No, I think when they're in disguise and they occupy individuals, I think it's internally the individual is the
Right.
individual,
Right.
but
The
they're overcome individually. I mean, it's like they walk among us. How many times have people stated that? Barry stated it, my colleague. Yeah, you said it. Robert Bigelow said it. Richard Dolan said it. Bob Dean said it, and many others. Yes, they do, but not them. But
Right.
they are induced into the individuals, and it's them. Now you might shake the hands of somebody, and they might say, "Oh, have a great day, Alex. It's nice to see you," or whatever. But you don't know who's at the steering wheel of their consciousness. And they could be feeding information back. And when I've said about people saying, look, landing on the White House lawn, which is ridiculous, I don't never need to because they're already in there. Of course they are. Their consciousness is consciousness. It's everywhere. So it's
Mhm.
quite obvious that there's not much we can hide from them. So it's going to be pretty tough. It just looks like demonic possession. Now, when people talk about demonic possession, they always think about the latter end, don't they? Which is a bit like a scene from The Exorcist.
Yeah.
But what they don't realize is that what led it to that? Well, there's been months and months they've been had this thing inside them, but they've been acting, oh right, yeah, nice to see you, Nana, nice to see you, Grandma. Yes, love you too, and da da da. But they're still in there.
Still in their dorm.
It's no difference than the aspects of demological possession
Mhm.
and you could say intelligent incursion,
Mhm.
couldn't you? It's the same thing. You wouldn't know by shaking their hand, and then they can go off and be doing, like spies, double agents,
Yep.
in a sense. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure the Vatican's been spied upon by individuals in the Vatican, working for the Vatican, which might actually be, have an incursion. You never know. I wouldn't put it past them if NHI want to know what's going on in the Vatican. I'm sure they're well rooted.
Mhm.
Absolutely. So Jason Sands went on to say, we are a slave race. Now, I don't like the word slave race because it brings back terrible memories of things that stupidity people have done in the past.
Right.
However, a slave race or we are being manipulated. NHI have been doing this for millennia. Now, again, he's another person now. It's going to say it all ends with God. So what's he saying is that does it all end because it all ends with God because God is at the driving wheel? I might have all the kids in the back, all the archetypes, but God's at the driving wheel. Is that what he's saying? It's again these people keep coming out, but there does seem battling element, and that battling element is about induction to the program, the
Mhm.
induction to homage, the induction to worship of things questionable. And it's in everywhere, even the highest, biggest companies in the world. I mean, take Disney for an example. I don't know if you've seen, I mean, I don't really watch many Disney films, but I know about Elio or Elio, the new one, it's an animated movie that's just come out. It's crazy. These are kids that are going to be watching a movie, an animated movie about a young boy who wants to contact ETs. He
Mhm.
has scenes of wearing a god helmet. He has scenes with sigils, scenes of ritualistic practice, invocation, alien abduction, ancient symbolism. Also, I'm thinking kids are watching this. You
Mhm.
know, who's steering the narrative here? It's just like that. There's a book out. It's called Cito and Friends. When I was at school in the UK, a young lad, I used to read books called is it like Jane and Friends or Peter and Jane books and things? And he'd go out to the beach with the dog, and the dog was a red setter, and it was just easy ready books, you know. And books today in schools, Cito and Friends. Cito's a little grey alien, by the way. It takes kids on a little trips around the universe. I think to myself, yeah. But of course, Disney's come under this a lot, haven't they, over the years? You know, the pushing of ideas. I mean, there's even old cartoons where Illuminati was wrote on the board. I think they have a laugh with this sometimes. And there's even worse stuff where, you know, some character falls out of a window and he's falling to the ground. And as he's falling, you've seen this fast scene of windows pass by. And in there's people watching television. But you've got to slow it down. You got to freeze frame it to see what's on that TV screen. I tell you what, you'd be shocked. It's not for kids. So what I'm saying is that there's been a bit of a dark history behind this, but there's this effort for the younger generation to keep in touch with this process of induction to get them
And
interested or involved.
initiation, and what's so interesting to me, and from my perspective, is not just the preservation of the ET narrative, right? Again, people act like these congressmen and women have just come up with this theory. No, they've been briefed on the data.
Yeah,
And from the data set, they arrive to their conclusion. Number one, that, yeah, we know they're not ET. There's something different out there. But then you have to go back to Hollywood, which is where you're going right now, and asking ourselves, okay, why is it not only are they pushing the ET narrative, but
yeah,
they're pushing contact with that mask? So both of those are hand in hand, realizing, wait a minute, our government doesn't even believe that. Is this right? Is this just, again, predictive programming or some kind of propaganda that they're pushing on the part of the phenomenon to mask itself as ET? Meanwhile, behind closed doors, they're like, we know they're not ET. There's
mm,
something else. And so that even underscores, highlights the darkness of trying to make children into initiates under the guise of extraterrestrial contact. That
yeah.
grieves me, Steve.
It's not good. It's not good. All right, pal. We'll keep in touch and I will talk to you soon, buddy. Okay.
All right, talk to you, bud. Have a good night.
All right. Cheers, mate. Ta-ra, pal.